The 5 pillars of digital growth. Transform your business for the automated economy. In this episode, Kramer, the founder of Cooperative Computing, reveals the 5 essential business areas you must digitally enable to drive sustainable growth. Through practical examples and strategic insights, you'll learn how to balance revenue growth with profitability while meeting modern customer expectations across marketing, sales, operations, customer engagement, and service delivery. I'm your co-host, Anthony Perl, and whether you're just starting your digital journey or looking to accelerate your existing efforts, it's time to get enabled digitally.
Kramer, we've talked previously about the whole concept of accelerating into the automated economy, but how do you then take that idea and turn it into growth?
Yeah, there are some key things here. So the growth, first off, a growth mindset says I'm growing across a couple of different dimensions. I can grow my revenue, right? I can grow my gross profit, and I can grow my net profit. So if you think of a growth-minded company, they're strategically balancing all 3 of those things constantly as they're in their growth strategy and their stages along the growth path. And so the ability for that growth-minded connecting to the digital enablement that helps you accelerate into that automated economy also has to take that same curve. So, while I'm in revenue growth mode, I may be doing some things that put pressure downstream on my gross and my net profit. I know so. I'm going to continue to do it, but I do it strategically and predictably. I know at some point I'm going to cross over the point where gross profit starts to come out. And then once I do that, my net profit starts to grow because I've got scale inside the business. So I'm predictable about how those things work. So digital enablement inside a business to get that to happen has to work along these 5 key segments of how the business has to think about what it's doing to predictably scale on that growth strategy to get into this automated economy.
So let's talk through just at a high level, firstly, what are those 5 key areas?
So in a business, traditionally, our thought leadership says, here's how you put a business together. And that came out of, how we built businesses in the old days to make certain that we could actually manufacture at scale, so on and so forth. Now, under no, I'm under no illusion that those things we did traditionally should be thrown out and not thought about. But one of the things that are critical for us as we actually get into the future are those people that are saying, I'm going to cause disruption because of how I do it, right? Let's use, for example, Tesla. I know they're getting beat up a lot. But what Tesla said is, I'm going to bypass the normal retail, and I'm going to let the consumer come directly to me to purchase their vehicle, to get service on the vehicle, to do all the things around the vehicle. It doesn't really matter that it was an EV or not. What they did is they said, we're going to disrupt the model that's out there. And that model is going to let the consumer come directly to me. Those 5 key components then are branding and marketing. You've got to disrupt how you're doing it because the future buyer is going to want to get to that information differently. We're already seeing that people are going into ChatGPT and asking it to go look at different products and go find the one that they want that does what they want it to do. Why? Because I want what I want, when I want it, and I want it at the value that I'm going to attribute to it. So the model for how you're actually branding and marketing things has got to change. It's being disrupted with new technologies. So first, branding and marketing. How do you digitally enable that? And how do you prepare both the resources in your business for what they need to adjust to make that happen, as well as how do they adopt things into that organization? I call them digital sapiens, right? So you're going to have Homo sapiens and digital sapiens working side by side. Those digital sapiens got to be treated like Homo sapiens. They're going to have a badge because you're going to want to track what systems they're in and what they're doing. You're going to have to train them both on your culture and how do you want them to behave in that culture. You're going to have to make certain they have some sort of reward system put in place. They're not going to operate for free forever, right? There's going to be things that you have to think about as you put those digital sapiens alongside the Homo sapiens. That's true in your branding and marketing. If you do well at that, then you're going to go from branding and marketing to sales and commerce. And your sales and commerce engines and tools, they're going to drastically change. Love Shopify. Think it's a great platform. Shopify is going to be obsolete when the agent-to-agent solutions start to come in, because they're going to have access via MCP directly to the product catalogs. They're going to share them directly to you through your agentic technology, and you're not going to worry about it anymore to go to a website and say, let me see, let me find, let me. Why? You want what you want. You want it when you want it, and you want it at the value you want it. And so that's all drastically going to change in that sales and commerce. So that's the second piece. The third piece then is operations and order fulfillment. If you do good at branding and marketing, it's going to drive scale and volume into your sales and commerce. Then from sales and commerce, it's going to drive into your operations and order fulfillment. And that order fulfillment includes the full supply chain. I've got to make certain that I can manufacture it. I can actually get those manufactured goods out into the distribution channel, and I can get them into either the distributor or the buyer's hands. And then the last thing, or the next thing in that cycle is, once I do that well, then I want to re-engage that customer. So that next thing is customer engagement. A lot of times people want to map customer engagement into the initial branding and marketing activity. There's a flaw in that. The things I do to acquire you as a customer may not be the same things that I do to actually make certain I keep you. For example, I don't offer you a loyalty program on my very first introduction to what it is I'm selling you, but I'm going to quickly do so after I see that you've bought 2 or 3 things or 4 or 5 things. I'm going to encourage what you're going to do to get the next 10 or 15 things. So those loyalty programs start to kick in. And cross loyalty is it's going to be a huge thing in the future, right? I'm already seeing American Airlines work with the luxury hotel providers, cruise lines. They're starting to all commingle so that I can use my airline points and my hotel points, and all these things start to munch together. Why? I want a true experience that is all combined. That last thing then, if that all works well, right? So branding and marketing is going really well. My sales and commerce engine's just chugging it through. My operations and order fulfillment team is spitting it out, and my customers are getting it on time. My re-engagement process is working, and clients are coming back and they're buying more, and they're telling me what they want me to produce. All of that has to be governed. That's called service delivery management in our model. Service delivery management says I'm constantly watching all of those components with the right metrics to understand, am I going in the right direction or the wrong direction? And those directions, again, are across the 3 dimensions. People, right? What am I doing on the organizational side? What am I doing on the methods and procedures, systems and technology? And how am I doing on the revenue, right? Revenue growth. How am I doing for my operationally effectiveness? And how am I doing at driving data-driven decisions? I've got to constantly watch those 3 aspects across those 5 key business areas. If you do that effectively and digitally enable those against the same timeline that you're trying to get your growth to happen, then you're going to be a well-balanced engine that comes out the backside of that with survivability and scale.
There is an awful lot to unpack in all of that. And I think one of the things that I want to tell everyone listening in at the moment, what our intention is to do in this episode in particular, is to give you an overall idea of all of these things. But we are going to go into these 5 different areas quite separately. So advising everyone at this point to make sure you hit subscribe so you're not going to miss future episodes and as we delve into this. But just to pull it back a little bit, and I want to make sure that everybody understands the concept of digital enablement, because in order to get into all of these different areas, you really have to understand that concept. So talk to me about what that really means at a high level, because it's a nice term, but what's the guts of it?
100%. And thank you, because this is such an important concept, because it is, it can be somewhat ambiguous, but it's also very deliberate. So one of the key things that in the early days, so I worked on a bunch of, digital transformation projects. And in digital transformation, we were quite often going in, ripping out systems and putting in new systems. And often we were seeing that, hey, the thing that you've got, it's not far off. Someone just misconfigured it. They forgot to turn the green button on instead of the blue button. So digital enablement says, why don't we take a look at your current state, the thing that you're doing today, your future state, and look at what is it that you need to do from a digital perspective. And that includes organization, methods and procedures, systems and technology, and key performance indicators. What is it you need to do to digitally enable from this current state to the future state? For example, let's say that you've got a intralogistics. Let's say that you've got a warehouse, and let's say that that warehouse has about 100,000 SKUs. And those 100,000 SKUs are mixed SKU types. Some of those are small parts, and some of those are large pallet parts. There's a whole pallet worth of stuff. And your job is to get things in and out as efficiently as possible. And so what you need to think about then as that person in supply chain management or whatever title they've given you is, how do I ensure that where I'm at today, I've got personnel that are going and picking those out of a bin. I'm moving them into the area where I've got to then package them up, and then I have to ship them out. When you're doing 15 of those a day, no big deal. When you're doing 100 a day, I can throw a couple people at it. When I'm starting to do 1,000 a day, I'm looking at a little bit of automation, digital enablement, so on and so forth. So this construct of digital enablement is, where are you? Where do you want to go next? What does it take to get you from here to there in the most effective manner? So we're not after big bang, we're after effectiveness to go from step one to step two. And there's a key construct that we often talk to our customers about. The risk of failure has gone down substantially from whenever I had to go buy 10 servers, stick them in a rack, get the power, make sure the OS was patched, blah, 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 blah. You can stand up a cloud environment, if you should choose to do so, because you can now bypass that. You can roll out the environment you want to test it in. You can get it up and tested. You can automate the build of a lot of the components, including helping you code that environment. And you can do all of that with a credit card that's got a balance of 10,000, and you can turn that into something relatively quick. The risk of failure has reduced substantially. And if we don't mentally take the leap that I can go out and try this, then this digital enablement concept that says, I'm here and I want to get here and I want to make certain I overcome those barriers by digitally enabling it, right? That deep level of what does digital enablement mean is crucial then for you to think about. So let's go into some details. On the organizational side, let's take this operation that we just talked about. Today, you've got a person on a forklift. They go up to a truck. They pick it up out of the truck. They move it off the truck. They put it into an area that stages it. And then they either take it out of that, drop it in that staging area, or they go put it up. Okay. So there's unload and then there's put up. In the next world, as we go to the future, digital enablement is going to take the forklift operator and move him to a different job. What is he going to be? He's going to be a drone pilot at some point, because he's going to operate 15 forklifts simultaneously. Why? Because those are going to be drones. They're going to be digitally automated forklifts. Well, what's the person driving those? That's a digital forklift operator. And so someone's got to supervise and manage the digital forklift operator. So what does digital enablement mean in this one use case? I have to adopt my organization from forklift operators. I've got to upskill those forklift operators because they know about forklift operations. They know what it means to stick the forklift into a pallet that's worth $150,000 worth of goods. And they know what the pain is, and they know never to let their digital brethren to do that. So digital enablement is going to enable the organization to have digital people in it, digital forklift operator. It's going to have oversight by a supervisor that's going to be a human supervisor that's going to make certain he's trained that digital forklift operator how to work. He's made certain that the path and all the things that are around it for how it gets processed through the flow is correct. And so the very first thing you do is organizational development to make certain you can do that. That's the first step in your digital enablement journey. Next, to do that, I've got to be able to repeat things in a standard fashion. Doesn't mean 100%, but you better have methods and procedures. SOPs are for humans. We're going to read them. Methods and procedures are going to tell digital things what to do in a consistent fashion. The difference between robotics process automation and what we're going to be doing inside our next generation agentic technology is robotics process automation says, here's a script, do it over and over again. And if something goes wrong, tell me about it and I'll jump in and fix it. Okay. Agentic technology will be able to do those things. And when it sees an issue, it'll try to work around them and it'll take some feedback on the work around it and it'll try to overcome those steps itself. So digital enablement is going to work organizationally, methods and procedures, systems and technology. Here's the big one. This is where you and I are frustrated today. What I'd really like to do is I'd like step one to happen. What does step one look like? Well, in the morning, I wake up at 7. I read the Financial Times. Whatever it is, Wall Street Journal. I look for some key things that I'm want to understand. I take that information. I go over here to my stock picker for the day. I look at my stock picker for the day, gets the things I read over here. I validate those. I may or may not make some changes to that. I take some information from that. I send an email off to my wife saying, honey, I just dropped another 2,000 in this account for this transaction, or I'm talking to my buddies about something and I want to get that communication out. You did 5 or 6 things that you enjoy, but there's steps in that you really don't want to do. Do you enjoy opening your email every day? No, but I have to if I want to read it. Well, what do you want to do when you read it? I want to understand the information that's being sent to me. Well, that's great. Those tasks right now, a system to go do those 6 steps for you and do so well in an agentic methodology and do it across that does not exist. That's our super dream. So we can have that plugged in, right? Hey, Hal, can you do this for me today? Mm-hmm. That level of our next generation for what we want in digital enablement, we've got to prepare for that across each of those 5 key business areas. That's digital enablement. So organizationally, what do we do? Methods and procedures. What are we doing? Systems and technology. How do these things plug together to get the results we want? Key performance indicators. You and I, if we go unleash 15 digital people to go do things for us, we want oversight. We want to understand what's going on. Hey, I just bought 10 robots and they're going to go walk dogs for me and I'm going to sell dog walking services at $5 a day and I'm going to have a bunch of people sign up. And I want to know that they're walking them in the right area, that they're not, unleashing them and they're running through the streets. So you want something in front of you that shows you that's going well. Your dashboards and key performance indicators, those tools enable us to get to that digitally enabled state in an effective manner. That's the heart and soul of digital enablement.
There is, so much in that. And we do want to go into these 5 different areas in coming episodes, as we mentioned. But I just want to get your take as well on all of this is, where do you start? Because if we do have these 5 different areas of the business that we need to look at, what is the starting point?
That's a great question. This is probably one of the most fundamental things that people are trying to do on their own as they start moving the pieces around. For example, we work with customers and we tell them about how we do what we call our DMX. We talk to your branding and marketing group, what's working, what's not working, what's your current state, where do you want to go? What are your organization methods and blah, blah, blah. And then we talk to each of those 5. We come up with an issues list so we can help you with a path. What do you need to do? And what are you going to get the greatest value out of your business at? Okay. Now, some people are hurting right now, today. And that pain point is where you should start, but always do it from the perspective of your client. Always start with your client in mind. They're number one, and they have some, I want what I want. I want it when I want it, and I want it at the value I want it at. And if you do not understand those 3 things, everything else that you're doing is the spinning of, wash on, wash off, and you're not getting the car clean at all. So you've got to start with that perspective of my client and what is it that I need to do for my client. And it could be anywhere along that path. You may have a great sales team. They may be communicating the value of your product. You see growth, and then the sales and commerce engine can't keep up with it. And so what does it take to go transfer that into an order? Well, gosh, I send it over to the order entry team, and it takes them an hour and a half to get the order in and get the customer right and da. And so by the time I got my customer actually saying, yes, I want 1 million of those, and I put the order for 1 million, and 200,000 of the million need to look like this, and 100,000 need to look like this, and 50,000 need to look like, it's absolutely painful. Then work on that, because your customer cares about those 3 things. I want what I want, when I want it, at the value I want it. So you better figure out how to deliver that, because if you don't, there's someone coming right up behind you who's going to figure it out. And what Sheen and Timu taught us really, really quick is we have a tolerance for getting something quick and cheap and throwing a few away. Now, that tolerance isn't as high as what everyone thought. Okay, those business models had some structural problems. But we'll go buy, $3 earrings that I wear 2 times, and I'll throw them away because they're $3 earrings. Well, there's also the person that wants $100,000 earrings, and everyone knows they're $100,000 earrings when they come through the door. That buying experience and how you get to the $100,000 earrings is, I want what I want, when I want it, at the value I want it. So you better understand your customer's perspective as fast as you can. That's the first place to start. Now, what does that look like? For marketing and branding, it's very specific to what does that look like. For sales and commerce, what does that look like? For operations and order fulfillment. So that perspective has to be applied to each of those 5 key areas and work from the customer in as to what it is you want to achieve. We're working with a large auto manufacturer. They distribute out of Mexico. And, they can get you a car in 4.5 days. That's amazing. That's not good enough for them. That's not their bar. Because their customers are saying, I would really like it if I could have my car. I bought it from my daughter. My daughter wants it, and she wants it in 2 days. And if you can't get it in 2 days, I've got an alternative that can get it in 2 days. And so you've got to figure out how to take that customer's perspective across each of those, understand what does that look like. That's the best place to start.
And that's all for this episode of Get Enabled Digitally with Kramer from Cooperative Computing. If you found value in today's conversation about digital enablement, please subscribe and share with colleagues navigating their own transformation journey. For more insights on accelerating into the automated economy, check our show notes for resources and contact information. This show has been produced by podcastdoneforyou.online. I'm Anthony Perl, and until next time, keep moving forward to get enabled digitally.